Today on Pastor JDO3, the podcast, we spend time talking to Demetrius Frazier. He achieved his bachelor's from Virginia Union University and a master's degree from the University of Richmond. Today, we continue our discussion about gender and roles and the role that the scripture plays in providing a structure for our families. What do you think? And now, part 4 of Up Goes Frazier.
Kind of understand, and I believe that there is wisdom that comes up the pipe and down the pipe, But if nobody's talking, you can't learn. But I do think that every generation is going to have some type of battle, and this one right here is definitely going to be a major one. As a minister or pastor at a church, one of the things that I am very, very aware of is how we as a church, and I'm saying collectively, drop the ball on how we address the homosexuality issue. We went, as opposed to love and discussion, we went hate and counsel. And
That's right.
It did not go well. It was a flop.
It's a scourge, right? It's got to be eliminated. We got to get this out, and that's never going to be the answer. So I think we have to be mindful of that and how we're actually approaching them, how we're talking to them about the issues that we think are important, and I think we can bridge that gap. I honestly do. I think they have issues that are valid, and to be judged by how you perceive yourself, we know that, we understand that. We had the same thing. I went to DuPont, back to the early part of the story. I was crispy clean. I had all the good look and clean cut. I didn't have a beard. I didn't have any dreadlocks. Still undervalued. And so now they're like, okay, you want to follow your model? Your model says, all right, man's head of the household. This is a woman's role. And I can't be CEO? No, because you can't be making more money than the man, right? That stuff is dated for them, and they want to see a transition to that. I want to ask you a question. I asked this question to some brothers of mine, and some white and some black brothers, and we're in this van and we're talking around, and all of them are married. All the men who are in this discussion are married, and I said, what if your wife made more money than you, and you have children, but she approached you and said, hey, would you be willing to stay at home, not work, and take care of the kids? To a man, every one of them laughed in my face, said, absolutely not. And then I was like, well, hold on. What if the wife is making oodles of money, like Beyonce money? It's like, nope, I still gotta go and work. Like, we're still holding on to this I gotta, so much so that we're willing to say, no, I can't support my wife. That's the stuff we gotta get rid of. And I think that's the stuff they're like, doesn't apply anymore.
Yeah, that is a major challenge. And what's interesting, if you were to choose either myself or my wife to stay at home full time, I would be the logical choice. Especially with keeping house and stuff like that. As the oldest child of 4, that's right up my alley. I don't have a problem cooking, cleaning.
You were doing it.
I've been doing it anyway. I would taking care of kids. I was the oldest sibling of 4 kids, so all of these things are just kind of natural. So if you were to choose, then I would be the logical choice. But I don't think that because of how I was raised, I don't think that I would feel comfortable doing it. And that's part of what you're saying, is that training that says, hey, my mother, and why am I saying, the saying was, I can't stand a lazy.
Right.
And so if I were to sit on the couch and let my wife go out there and just break the mold, make all the money, and I wasn't to contribute something,
see,
I would hear my
and
mom.
you just hit
in my
it,
ear.
right? So you just hit it. The perception that since you're the one that's home, you're lazy.
Yeah.
You're letting your wife, quote unquote, take care of you. You have daughters in the house. All of us who are parents know the person who takes care of the house is doing all the work.
Yeah.
I'm gonna raise my hand here.
I know.
People can't see this.
Trust me, I know.
I would rather go work in the corporate world than to be home with 4 people, 4 little kids who think they're big people. It's hard work. But you see how that switched? We want to thank the woman for being a hardworking homemaker, caretaker, caregiver, for all of that. And that's seen as a valuable thing because we see that as her mold. Her, that fits. But you flip it over, now is Johnny doing it? Oh, man, lazy bum. That's ridiculous.
It would be hard to accept that. Now, I have accepted. Now, Q makes more money than I do as a college professor. And that was something.
How did that feel right there? How did that feel?
Oh, that was cool.
You feel liberated, saying,
bro? Look, when I met her at Union, and she said, "I want to get a PhD." Well, right then and there, I knew it was like, this girl gonna make more money than me at some point. So either I'm cool with this or I'm not. And I was cool with it. And I encouraged her to get her master's, her second master's, encouraged her to get her PhD. And I knew that time would come, and I was okay with it. But I still have this idea of how things should be structured. And it's something that I talk to my daughters about, and I encourage. But one of the things that I've always done is I went after a smart girl. I wanted someone who could think for themselves, who had ideas, who could challenge me, who brought something to the table. And that's what I wanted, and not to have some, Barbie doll that I could just and didn't have any parts. Right. And so I encourage my daughters to find a man that they respect, but I also want them to find a man that respects them as well. And even though he may at some level have the final say on certain things, that her voice is very much a part of his decision making. So even if I quote unquote make a decision, like we're buying a car right now, so I may end up making that decision finally on what car we get, but I spent hours listening to her, talking to her, trying to figure out what's going to be the best thing for the family and also what's going to make her happy, because the last thing I want is a wife that's not happy.
Right. No, you don't want that.
You don't want that. That would be tragic.
You don't want that, Chuck. No, and I think, especially, and I don't take this as, I am a Christian Baptist, so I'm talking like I'm talking to a family in the Christian family. But I think one of the things that we continually push in the Christian faith sometimes is that man is the head of the household. Women, are second. And they don't use the word second. The scriptures are overused sometimes in the wrong way. But the man is the head of the household, makes the final decision. Women should look up to him. But I think we always forget that other part where it says, you're supposed to love your wife the way Christ loved the church. And I always give the practical part and say, well, what did Christ do for the church? I kind of remember there being a crucifixion. Are you willing to do and love your...
Right. I tell guys all the time, the hardest role in the house is the husband. He's asked to actually sacrifice more and to do more than his wife, who's the counterpart. He forgives the church over and over again, and his job is to help her to be her best. And that's something else that we miss in the scripture. He says, look, he cleans every spot and every wrinkle and presents her back to himself. So his whole objective is to help the church, help his bride become her very, very best, and to excel at everything that she does. That's part of what that's part of what he does, and I think that we mismanage that sometimes, particularly in our presentation of the scriptures, and that has been very damaging. And I think that that's one of the things we have to do. Have you been able to get to a space where now you can have some open dialogues with mom and to talk openly about your maturity in the scripture?
I would say my mom and everyone that I've been around has been very open to having the discussion. And I don't know if it may be because I'm coming to the conversation with open ears. That's my maturity personally, is that I've been a better and better listener every year. And so I'm willing to hear the other side, the other point, but I'm also willing to say and offer what I think are different parts of their interpretation. So my mom is actually really good about, you might be right, that kind of language. Let me look into it, think about it. She's not very rigid in her box. And I think she has been really good for me because I'm modeling that behavior with myself, my kids, my wife, and actually people that I work with. And I think we can get better placed there. We can move and transform communities and organizations if we can get better about taking the things that we've learned as kids and question them a little bit. I remember, speaking of homosexuality, I remember homosexuality being like, that was the worst thing you can be as a man. Not jobless.
Robber, murderer.
You can beat on your wife and still be not worse than think about all the words that we use. Think about the rap music we listened to back then. It was littered with it. And it was, hey, I know you robbed, killed, steal, sold drugs, beat on your wife, slept with 50 women. At least you're not right? And I think questioning some of those things has helped me grow. And I think my mom, she taught me some things, but now that I think back on it, she posed questions. And she would say, well, man, what'd you think about that? And she would just let me kind of go. And then she, if I was way off base, of course she would correct me, but she was teaching me to be a thinker more so than be someone who can regurgitate what she said. So I've learned to appreciate that and try to mimic that for my children.
Now, one of the things, we're talking about this homosexuality issue, I listened to the music, grew up in the same, type of context and environment. Of course, I'm a preacher's kid. I'm a preacher myself. I'm a pastor myself. And so I get to Virginia Union, and I have this one kind of thought on what it should be like and who and how these people are, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm at this Christian school, right? This is a Baptist school.
Baptist school.
So I'm assuming everyone there, Bible thumpers, a whole bunch of other PKs. But there were a couple of brothers there that one was openly homosexual, and then the other one was in and out. And we both were in the circle with these guys. And I remember we were in the hallway in Putney, and one of the guys said something, and we all were just like, bro, why don't you just come out? Like, we all friends. It's not gonna change anything.
It's not gonna change anything. You still going to the same parties.
Yeah, you still gonna go to the same parties. We still boys. We all know that you're like this.
Right.
Just go ahead and make this official. And I remember us having those dialogues, because what was great about being in that environment is it wasn't just the book education or the skills that you got in a specific craft. It was this social growth that you experienced.
What a great journey it was to be at the mighty, great Virginia Union University. So many lessons learned, so many great friendships formed, so much growth experience. I'd love to hear about your experience in college or in grad school. Tell us what you learned. Tell us what stuck out. Tell us what new thing that you incurred that helped you change your perspective about a specific group of people or a specific subject matter. I'd love to hear from you. Use the hashtag PastorJDO3 podcast, or use the hashtag PastorJDO3.